First down and 10 for the 13. Back to Daniel Jackson at quarterback. Low snap, rolls to the right side, throws up the back leg, and it's picked off again. It's Nolan Ewing who trots down the far sideline, dives to the end zone. It's a touchdown. Nolan Ewing, his third pick of the day, goes for 6 points. Jack Mullen under center in flex bone. Has the snap, 3-step drop, lobs it up, left side, Kevin Green, back in the end zone. He has it! Touchdown, Falcons! Arnold under center out of the flex bone. Gives out the Zach Dressler is here on the near side to the 30. Makes a cut in the middle to the 15, to the 10. Stumbling inside the 5, and he's hit to the end zone for a Falcon touchdown. What's going on, everyone? Voice of the Friends Falcons, Pat Strathman, joined by the head football coach at Friends University, Terry Harrison. Welcome into our third edition of the Friends Football Coaches Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. We're broadcasting from Walk-Ons. We do this every single Monday at 5 o'clock. So if you want to come join the fun, make funny faces at Coach Harrison or myself, see if we can break down, I think that's totally fine. I think we'd be more than happy to have people here. Certainly a lot of people here today with Labor Day taking place. So Walk-Ons has been tremendous here today. They've been tremendous after games. They're the spot for pregame. This is really the spot. Plenty of TVs in the house, so you're not going to get bored in this building. And, of course, they have fantastic game day food with that southern twist. Come on out to Walk-Ons here in Wichita. The Friends Falcons, they are 2-0 for the first time since 2008. I thought that might have been a typo when I saw that, but I had to go back, and nope. First time since 2008. A very successful season back then for Friends. A season that saw the Falcons go 10-1, and I'm sure Coach Terry Harrison would love to see something like that. But a lot of game left ahead of us this season, including this upcoming Saturday versus the Avila Eagles. You can come on out and watch it at Adair Austin Stadium. Kickoff is scheduled for 6 o'clock as of right now on this taping, because you just never know. Excessive heat changes things, so on and so forth. Well, this past weekend, the Friends Falcons, they went on the road, went to Ottawa, came away with a W, 49-20. Another impressive rushing performance by the Falcons, nearly 500 yards on the ground in that flex bone offense. Watching tape, you guys got off to a good start. Defensively, maybe let some things slide here and there, but for the most part, you're never going to complain about a win on the road. And not to mention, you avenged a loss from last season. Ottawa, I think, has improved from last season. So you guys have improved, so they have as well, and you guys found a way to get the job done. Just your overall thoughts with the win on the road on Saturday.
Yeah, overall, been an awesome win, especially our first opportunity to travel as our new team, and get on the road, which is a little longer road trip, than most of ours in the conference. So that was, it was cool to get to experience that and, play at Ottawa, which is always, tough place to play. They had our parents tucked back in the corner. You know how they do that with the bleachers. But, yeah, it was a great win. I think our guys played really well. Offensively, it's funny. We're doing so much good stuff. I think we scored on 7 of 9 drives. And as good as we played, man, it's so fun to come back. Well, it's fun and not fun, I guess, if you're a player, right? To play that well and score some points, and then see some film where we are a long way away from how good we could be, and that's kind of the challenge, right? Is sometimes it's way easier to learn from a loss, because it's humbling and it's embarrassing, and you kind of get a little grittier about it when you're watching film. But if we can learn from a win, when we certainly did not play flawless by any means offensively, there's still room for growth. And I think of teams that have played 2 games, we're leading those teams in scoring in the country. We're top 3, whatever, a bunch of top stuff, which is where we want to be, right? That's not a surprise to us. We've been there before, so it is cool for our kids to see that, which is probably a little different feel than last year, maybe as far as his points per game. Then defensively, the fact is that we were frustrated at times because you know how it is. You want to get off the field every time. But when we were able to step out, we were coaching our kids hard. But when you step back from that quarterback that they have, he, in his career of high school and college, has thrown for 1 billion yards. And then their two running backs are very good. Relative to other people in the conference, they're very talented. And so, they cause some issues, which is, it's college football. That's what it's supposed to be. You're going to play against good players, and I felt like they did a pretty good job of that, and they stayed committed to the run even though they were down 3 or 4 scores. And so sometimes that can be hard when you anticipate maybe they might throw the ball a little more, but even down 3 and 4 touchdowns, they just kept running the ball, And so that challenged us a little bit, and, certainly we have some room for improvement there. And I think especially players, a lot of new defensive players, we'll learn from that. And, outside of that, awesome day. Very proud of our team. Like you talked about, avenging a loss from that. Really, probably our worst loss last year. It's what it felt like to me. As far as feelings after a game, that one was hard. I remember that as a staff when we walked in. It was just like, man, it was a hard day, and our players as well. And so to be able to come back and have more growth in them in our program over the last years, that's exciting.
Jet Cheatham kicks things off with a touchdown. How good did it feel to finally get him into the end zone for the first time as a collegiate football player?
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I didn't realize that was the case.
I think it was his dad that pointed it out on social media, which I didn't realize that either until, okay, yeah. I mean, Jazz had his moments, but certainly never found a way to truly get into the end zone. So for him to get that taste there and gain number 2, how good did that feel to finally get him into the end zone, and for him to be a future back at times?
Yeah, well, it's kind of, I feel weird about that. We just don't focus on that stuff. It's like, hey, did we win? And did we score? Or whatever. We don't really necessarily care who that is. We want to win as a program, and we don't necessarily elevate individual players, above others. And so, I saw that and heard that too, and it was kind of crazy. Because he is so talented. He's an extremely hard worker. I mean, he lives in the weight room and all that stuff. And he's really done a good job in the offseason to now getting himself in a position to contribute, more regularly than he did last year. Big. He had a big impact last year in the return game, but not as much offensively, on the field. And so, it's been very cool to see his growth and how he really embraced that, last year, not playing as much offensively. And then, he really worked and earned everything he's gotten. So to see it pay off in a touchdown, whatever that might mean, was super cool for him.
Cavante 2 for 2 in terms of having 50-plus yard runs, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to – I know you want that to happen every single game, but, you have to be a little realistic. His electric play at some point, I mean, people are still looking in terms of how they can slow him down, but the picture that's out there on social media, I can't believe that the type of jump that he made, because – whew, that's Air Cavante is what I'm going to start calling it now. I just can't believe that he did something like that. But I even texted you, I think it was on Sunday, maybe it was on Saturday, but I'm pretty sure it's on Sunday. I'm like, look, Coach, the best play that he had was one that got called back because he was able to rip through tackles at the round. I'm like, look at this dude. This dude should already be wrapped up as of right now, but he bounced off tacklers left and right. So I guess your thoughts on Cavante, another stellar day at the office for him, and just gain number 2 as a Falcon.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, Cavante's he's an unbelievable athlete, and he just, more than his speed, which he has, more than his ability to throw the ball, which he has, every ball he's thrown has been catchable this season. Not one has been overthrown or underthrown. Every one receivers had their hands on. So you have that. And then on top of that, when you complement him with our running backs, all the running backs that we've already mentioned in the past, and I'm sure we'll talk about more, it kind of poses a really hard problem. Like, what are you going to do? Because you can't just focus on him, or you're going to pay another way. And so that's what you want, right? You want this. You want a system that plays to everybody's strengths, and you want players that you can't just say, okay, if you stop Cavante, because that's not the case. You can't do that. And so that on top, you do have to honor every player on offense on top of his athletic ability. Leads to stuff like that. And I think we talked last week, I think in high school, I had a little flashback. He hurdled people like that in high school, but that's a penalty in high school, and I yelled at him all the time for it, like, stop doing that. So now he's free game, I guess, to jump over people, and everybody was oohing and on. So I was still yelling at him, but all out of love, very proud of him. But, yeah, he does that.
I mean, the Ottawa student section was like, whoa. If you can make the opposing student section go, ooh, you're doing something special.
Yeah, it's cool, and the funny part is, he's just – it's just, if you don't know him yet, and as people, see him play more, he's the most unassuming, awesome kid who, it's just, he just smiles when he jumps over people, and you just, well, I yell at him, but everyone else smiles back, I guess. But I'm very, very, very proud of him, and I'm glad that it's paying off a little bit. And, like, of anyone, he really is the ultimate teammate, and we talked about it last week, the idea of arrogance versus confidence, and he is confident. But man, you talk about a dude who loves his teammates, and that's why you see everybody go excited for him. Like everybody goes nuts when he does stuff, and even though sometimes it makes me mad when I'm like, "What are you doing? That's dangerous." But it's because he's such an awesome teammate.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's incredible to watch him, and I can't wait to watch him again this upcoming week against Avila. I've enjoyed what I've seen from Lake and Cloudis this year so far. I know we're just 2 games in, but when you came in as a first-year head coach, you tried to retain as many players as you possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. It's hard to have those guys come back. I imagine it's hard when you talk to the top rusher and go, hey, look, man, we're going to go from spread to flexbone, and we're going to put you in this position that's going to be a little awkward maybe for you. Last year also battled some health issues, so you have to bring up the injury aspect with Lakin as well. Here in year number 2, you guys are still kind of working on him, and he's still working on the system, but I'm loving what I'm seeing so far from Lakin. How well has he done transitioning into year number 2 compared to year number 1?
He's doing great, and you talk about another hard worker who's a 100% guy all the time, and, he's been one of those guys who's been here for a long time. Really the funny part is last year he was playing slot.
Yeah.
And so – we talked this offseason, Coach Kelly and I was like, look, he's a B-back. That's what he is. Just that's what those guys play that position for us. And it's kind of hard when you have Zach Dresser on your roster already. Right. But what we know is we need to be able to run those guys on and off, rotate those guys on and off. And last year, I was saying it the whole time, like, he is a B-back. That's what he is. It was one of those deals, and I've made that mistake in the past. At, our previous school, we let a kid coast through as a senior, and he stayed at slot. And I just swore I would never do that again when my inkling in my gut was like, we should have had this kid at B-back. And so, anyway, that's what happened with Lakin. And I was like, look, we need to put him back there, rotate him and Dresser, and now look at what you have. You don't get 3 plays off when Dresser's off, or whoever's off. It doesn't matter. Like, both those guys are threats to score. They're both as talented of a running back, regardless of fullback, running back, B-back. It does not matter what you want to call it. Those two are dynamic, as good as anyone in the conference, and arguably I think the top 2. So it just changes the game where you can't you don't get any plays off when one of those guys are off the field because you're just as good and you're running a fresh guy on. And so those guys complement each other really well. And he's still learning. Like, I think we talked about that. A lot of our guys, he hasn't played a lot of football in the last 2 years because of injury. But 3 years ago, he was a player of the week in the conference at a running back. And so probably multiple times in an all-conference guy. So as he gets it under him and he's figuring this thing out more, you started to see a little bit of it this week on some of the big runs he has. And we think, those 2 guys, again, it poses the problem. What are you going to do? You can't focus on 1 or 2 people because we do have a complementary group of athletes, which is when you do that, you can score some points.
Terry Harrison, head football coach of the Friends Falcons, here on the Friends Football Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Win for the Falcons this past weekend against Ottawa, 49-20. Up next, Avila, a team that checked in at number 18 in the country going into the 2023 season, and we'll break down that game here in just a little bit. Elias Pino, we got to talk about him. I know we kind of have already, but the one thing that you kept saying is he's still working off some rust. I don't know. That rust looks like it's completely off. Just based on what I saw on film, he had himself quite the day, over 100 yards rushing on Saturday against Ottawa, multiple scores. He looks rather comfortable in this system. Your thoughts on Elias? And, I got to say, that rust, if it's still on him, I don't know what it's going to be like then when it's completely off. But right now, it looks completely off to me because he looks pretty darn good.
Yeah, well, those guys, and maybe I overplayed that. I don't know. Good football players are good football. Maybe I just wasn't as good as I remembered. It's probably what I'm maybe referring to my own problems. But no, he's a young man that Coach Kelly recruited out of high school, and he went a different route. And then when we got to Friends, we were able to recruit him and get him here. But the thing is week to week, I believe, in my experience now as a football coach and a college football coach doing this for several years, that's how it's going to go. You just don't know when it's your turn. And you can tell kids that all you want, but as a player, I'm certain it sounds like the coach is just manipulating you a little bit to make you happy, And we were just very honest with the kids. Like, look, I'm not trying to manipulate. I'm telling you, you're going to have a week where they just decide – this is your week to make it shine. Now you have to be ready for that. You have to prepare for that and all that stuff. And we kind of got to see that, and carry on, who we've talked about in the past. Both those guys have been out a little bit, but now they're playing. Man, he was blocking really well, and always offensive line do a good job, and that's kind of part of that job. But Yeah, it was cool to see that because he did a fantastic job. And again, he's not a starter currently. Now they're rotating equally, but he's not a starter. So for him to be that, to be able to come in and do that's so cool and so awesome because he's a fun kid. He's in our fine arts programs. He'll be in the opera this spring or winter. He'll be in all those stuff. I mean, that tells you a very unique kid as far as that goes. And so when you talk about an ambassador for our football program who's on campus doing things well outside of football, that's not the norm. When you know his backstory, it's so cool to see that because he's not just he's not like me, man, a football meathead, right? He's a very talented young man, and so it was awesome to see that, and just what you see right now, we have the greatest team culture in all of NAIA football. I really believe that, and we feel that every day. Man, to see him, he was lit up after the game, but it was straight to see teammates who were happy for him, and seeing those guys celebrate on the sideline. You can feel this team culture and this brotherhood of people are excited for him, and it's because of the way they treat people. And Elias is elite at that. Outside of football, which he's very special. An elite teammate who cares about others, and like I mentioned, even more than that, on campus being an ambassador for our football program and for Friends University is very cool. And I'm sure the fine arts department was pretty happy to see him scoring touchdowns. They were probably like, oh my gosh, So very cool.
Well, you bring that up. I'm not going to lie. This past weekend, I heard a guy do a play-by-play call, and he worked in opera, like he sang it. And now I'm like, I'm not even going to try that for this upcoming Saturday against Avila. I'm not even going to be doing it. Hopefully I'll be saying a lot of touchdowns, but I don't think I'm going to be trying that anytime soon. But now you bring that up about Elias, well, heck, now I want him to come on the show.
We got to get him on here, man.
Let's try this. Let me see if I can get you an actual setting to where you can do some opera. I think that'd be great. One more guy I want to bring up, KK has continued, again, last year just 125 pounds soaking wet, I feel like. Now, KK, I say that with a lot of love, okay? I'm not saying that to insult you, but he came in rather tiny. But I remember you just saying, just wait till you see this kid because he's fast, but he's not afraid to make contact. And he scored a touchdown on Saturday against Ottawa.
Yeah, very cool. He is he's going to have the ability, he's a captain on our team. He's a sophomore. And we took the route this year. I've never really done the captain thing, but we did this year. And, man, he's got there are people that you meet that carry themselves like winners, and champions, and they operate at an elite level in everything they do. And KK has that. When he walks into a room, you can just feel it. He's got a presence about him that really is winning mindset, championship mindset, and he just makes our team better. And so to see him, kind of like Jet, to see them score a touchdown when all the other things that he does for our program. Very, very cool. He's been, the funny part, I think he's an unassuming leader. He probably doesn't even, I don't even think he realizes how much power he has in that regard because what it is, he just goes to work every day, and he's one of the most intentional practice players I've ever coached. And so for a sophomore to be able to do that, last year he was a little hurt. He had an injury as a senior that kind of lingered into his freshman year. Now he's healthy. Last year he had to play every series. Now he's being able to rotate on and off a little bit, which is good, right? It's a long game, and it's a very physical game. And so, to know that and just to see what kind of kid he has, it's going to be very interesting to see because he has had and will continue to have as much effect on our program as Cavante jumping over people. Cavante jumping over people gets the oohs and the ahs. But when you talk about a day in, day out type of young man, we have a lot of those, by the way. But certainly, when you mention KK, that's what he brings to our team. And so, it's just a very, very humble and very unassuming, and he probably will be, embarrassed that we even bring this up. But without a doubt, he is the model, for our team and truly what it means to be a big, tough Falcon. So it's fun. It's fun to see those guys score, and have success.
For sure. Offensive line-wise, I know you were psyched about the unit. When I was going back and watching film, I saw a couple blocks all the way to the sideline. And I'm like, all right, I can see why Coach Harrison likes this group, and to see that type of physicality play out. Your reaction about the offensive line 2 games in?
Yeah, that's my group of guys, and I love coaching them. And so, we knew we'd be very deep. I mean, the reality is we are not playing some very good offensive linemen, which is it's hard, right? If you're not playing, but it also just speaks to you want to be a program that has that problem, right? And so our question for this offensive line going into the season was, how are they going to handle tough things? How are they going to be tough when it matters, right? Certainly as big and talented as we've had, but will they be able to get in there and, one of my mentors says grind their gears. Are they going to be able to go grind the gears of the other team? And so to this point, they've been able to do that. And it was really cool this Saturday because we really felt like that defensive line of Ottawa, they had some seniors on there that are very talented that we were, hey, this is going to be a little bit of a test. And so that's going to continue to happen as we go throughout the season, but they definitely show, at least promise, that they are going to be the anchor of our team. And so to this point they've done that. Very, very proud of them. Great group of young men, and they've been fun to watch, and like you mentioned, just finishing blocks and balancing that kind off the field, but absolute killers on the field, and that's what you want of those guys.
Flipping over to the defensive side, I know we talked a little bit about Ottawa being able to move the football. There were a couple times though where you had some picks that just couldn't be reeled in, and I'm like, man, this could have been a way different type of game.
Yeah.
I know it's strange to say that because it's 49-20, and it's not like the defense was bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm watching film, and I'm just like, man, just look at some of these opportunities that were right there that maybe just kind of went through the fingertips. But I got to say, though, there's one guy that's certainly capitalizing in the first couple of weeks, and that's Marco Torres. Another sack, actually had two of them on Saturday against Ottawa. Already loving what I'm seeing from him here for this season.
Yeah, well, with Marco, we kind of had him out of position last year. He's one of those athletes we didn't really know what to do with him. And that's when you meet new players that we didn't recruit. We just kind of inherited him. Like, what do you do with this guy? He's kind of he's got an awesome vibe. He's kind of a just wild man out on the field, and loves to play the game, and he plays it the right way. He bounces that, like we talked about. He's a great teammate off the field, but he's trying to destroy people on the field. That's what you want. But we probably had him out of position, and so it's very funny. Tribute to his dad. In a conversation with his dad just kind of mentioned, he was a DN in high school, and we're like, that makes sense. Like, he should be a defensive end, and us trying to square peg round hole situation last year with what we were doing. And as the minute we put him there in the spring ball, we're like, he's going to be a real problem because we couldn't block him at all. So anyway, we're tribute to his dad, right? Thanks for doing our job for us a little bit. So appreciate that, Mr. Torres. But anyway, he's done a fantastic job. And so, with that, Marco's awesome. He's going to be able to pressure quarterbacks. He's so athletic. He's so physical. He's so violent. What kind of violent. Really hard to block, so he's going to be a problem for tackles his entire career as he finishes it out here at Friends. But then you mentioned a little bit defensively, some lessons, they're best learned the hard way in life and in football, and so we definitely had a couple things Saturday that were jamming us up a little bit. And then you go back and you watch the film, I was like, it's kind of silly. Football's a pretty simple game, 11 people, only so many gaps, and we did have a little bit of a jam up. But the cool part is, we were able to win. They were able to get stops. Those running backs were very, very good football players for Ottawa who do a great job running the ball. And so, we're able to go back and actually have something to work on. And, like it's one of those deals. We challenge our team the same thing. If you can learn from that win, and even though it was frustrating at times, man, it exposed something that we absolutely have to work on. When you can do that as a winner, that's what you do. You don't sit back and you're just, hey, we won, move on. We're going to address those flaws, and it's only going to make us better, certainly as we move forward through a tough stretch of football.
Well, let's talk about this weekend's opponent, the Avila Eagles, coming off a loss to Southwestern, 49-41. They were down big in that game, scored 22 in the fourth quarter and put some pressure on Southwestern, a very impressive team, a team that's in your division, in the Kessinger division, and we'll talk about them plenty once we get a little bit closer to that. New head coach Mark Benavides goes over to William Penn. You bring in Coach Alexander, who is no stranger to Avila. He's been there before. He's also no stranger to football, former Kansas City Chief, and so on and so forth. So he's got some pretty nice accolades on that front. And I don't know if it matters who's coaching Avila. I think regardless, you're going to get some freaky athletes on the football field. That just seems to be Avila's MO, including at quarterback with Eli Williams, who's a very tough guard, to say the least, a guy who ran for over 150 yards last week against Southwestern. So he poses a problem just in himself. Your thoughts on Avila and what you see on film from him?
Yeah, it was a very interesting game to watch because they were down so big. And like a lot of teams, it's weird how that works. They were down so big in the second half. And there are teams out there that, when you get them down like that, they almost settle down and they kind of just, toss it to the wind. Let's go make some plays happen. And that's when that quarterback is at his best because, what he does best is escape the pocket. And then it puts defenses in a jam. It's exactly what happened to Southwestern. What do you do when a quarterback escapes? Because when a young man like that, he can throw the ball the length of the field almost. if you release coverage and you come and pressure him, now you're leaving open receivers. If you drop 8, he can run the football really well, and so he's just a problem for people, and no different for us, right? We will have to make some decisions. Okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to pressure him, or are we going to drop back and just kind of try to contain him a little bit? And so that will be for us to figure out defensively throughout the week and see what we look at practice. But that's kind of what happened, and they just kind of stormed back. It looked like at one point Southwestern had put some younger guys in to get them some experience, and then it was kind of bang, bang, bang. Then they go through that whole chaotic scenario of throwing their starters back in, and so that certainly is not something fun to deal with on the Southwestern side. So but that's what they have, right, as far as talent. I think Eli was offensive player of the year in the conference last year, so that just speaks to the kind of talent he is and what he can do. And so that's what that'll be a big point of this point of emphasis this week. If we can figure out how to handle that. They have a very good running back as well. He was a backup last year, but he did a great job coming in off the bench. He's number 6, and I don't know his name. But those two are really good, and then their receivers are all talented, and so I don't necessarily know that they have just a receiver that you have to focus on. They're just pretty, they're all very good, and they're all very talented, and if you don't cover them, they can catch the football. So that will be the biggest challenge for offense, is deciding what do you do with this quarterback, and how are you going to approach the game plan with him. And so that will be our challenge as a staff this week, and then our kids' ability to do that, and then understand. Sometimes he's going to make some plays, and you just live to fight another down. And so what it will take is then us playing complementary football, and offensively, we call it taking the air out of the stadium. That's what we need to do. We need to hold on to that time. We need to hold on the football and own time of possession. Like an awkward amount of time. We'll hold on to that thing forever. And if we can do that and limit their offensive touches, that just helps the defense naturally. And so if we do that, it should be a good game, and I'm excited about it. Hopefully they're still ranked. They just dropped one to Southwestern, but yep. Southwestern's ranked. So my hope is they're still ranked. They were at 18. If they stay in the top 25, which, man, I'm pulling for, it's an opportunity for us, our first win as a program versus a ranked opponent. And so that's certainly my hope, because we want to play teams that are ranked, and we want to achieve those milestones. And it's just one that, this week we'd have a shot to do that.
All right, Coach, best of luck.
Thank you.
Terry Harrison, head football coach at Friends University, here on the Friends Football Show on ESPN Wichita 92.3 FM. Friends University 2-0 after a 49-20 win over Ottawa on the road this past weekend. Up next, Avila at Adair Austin Stadium in Wichita, the only place you can catch collegiate football in the city of Wichita. Catch it this Saturday at 6 o'clock. Of course, you can catch the game online in case you miss it or can't come at KCAC Network. I'm actually going to be making my debut for 2023 after slacking the season opener, but I will be back, at least knock on wood. I'll be back coming up this Saturday against the Avila Eagles. We're here at Walk-On Sports Bistro. Highly recommend coming out to this place before the game on Saturday. It's a 6 o'clock kick, so come here and pregame at 4 o'clock. Get yourself some wonderful food with that southern twist. If you can't come beforehand, you can always stop on by after. This is the place to be. Walk-On Sports Bistro here in Wichita, a place that we'll be at all throughout the season here for the Friends Football Show. Come out and see us at 5 o'clock on Mondays. For Coach Terry Harrison, I'm Pat Strathman saying so long. Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you again next week here for the Friends Football Coaches Show.